Hi, my name's Cameron Carlson with Anime on Location. I'm at the Kalahari Resort for Colossalcon 2011. I have with me Gothic Gaara from
Konoha Corner. It's the Naruto podcast, the only Naruto podcast currently going on, and the longest running in the history of iTunes.
That's really cool. So how did the whole project come about? We talked earlier privately that you had listened to some of the older ones, and they weren't doing anything, so you decided, hey, let's get it back up and running. So other than that, how'd you guys kind of get the idea?
Well, we listened to a different podcast before, and it's weird because I listened to the One Piece podcast, and I heard some things that they did that I really liked. Like they did manga recaps, they did anime recaps, they did news and stuff like that. And I was like, that's interesting. I could apply that same concept to Naruto. And then I talked with Zach, the guy that does it, and he's like, oh, well, we mostly stole all of those ideas from the Lost podcast. So it's like this long tradition of stealing the ideas of everybody else's. And it kind of started off that way. In the first episodes, you could definitely hear it. But as we got older, I guess you could say, we started kind of branching out into our own. We had our own little segments. We added fan art, which was something they didn't have. And then we added Toby's Tales. We gained more members as time went on. And it just kind of became something a little more unique to us, and we had our own style to it. We didn't try and shy away from the Narutard elements, and we actually make fun and poke fun at ourselves for it. We just like to have a good time. It's basically, it all boiled down to, I was already doing the same thing over my phone, and this was a lot cheaper on my phone bill. And so instead of calling 3 of my friends and being on the phone with them talking for 3 hours about the manga chapter that just came out or the anime episode that was just released, I was just like, let's all just jump on Skype and I'll record it. And that's kind of how it went, and I started putting the edits together for all the transition music and stuff. So, yeah.
So, no, it's okay. So how many people are currently part of your cast? I know it's just you here right now and one other person. So how many people do you currently have total cast members?
Well, we actually have 3 of them here right now, and we would have had more if it weren't for extenuating circumstances. There's a lot of people. Most of our crew is in the Southeast, but I guess you could say technically half our crew is in the Southeast. We are actually divided in half. The rest of them are all out in California. So it's a little crazy, but we have 3 here, and on the actual podcast crew itself, I've had to slowly start eliminating people because of either sound quality issues or they're not on enough or stuff like that, because we can only have so many people on a call at once or it starts getting crazy. And I mean, technically wise, anybody that's listening and is thinking about doing a podcast, keep your crew small. I would tell you that you don't want to deal with some of the stuff that I have to deal with because we have a large crew, but I'd say that right now we have probably about 14 or 16 people, and we usually have about 6 to 7 people on a call at a time, and that's not including myself. So it can be kind of crazy, and I've definitely had people from other podcasts that came on just as guests that were like, as soon as I dragged them into the call, they were like, whoa, this is way too many people. I'm like, no, trust me, this is business as usual. But it kind of gets a little crazy, especially with scheduling and everything, because we have people in 3 different time zones. I got 4, because we have one of our regulars is actually our Psy, and he's from the UK. He's about 2 hours east of London, and then we have people in the Eastern time zone and Central time zone, and then Pacific as well. And we generally record everything Thursday nights and Saturday nights from 8 p.m. to about 11 or 12. I say we record at 8 p.m. It rarely ever happens that way. It usually takes us about 30 to 45 minutes to actually get to the part where I'm like, all right, screw it, press the record button. Let's actually do this now. It's really funny because this is how I normally talk, and then as soon as we start recording, I'm like, so hello and welcome to episode such and such of Konoha Corner. And I put the big... I don't know. I put on my late night voice or something. I don't know. It's live from Konoha. It's Saturday night. I don't know. It's just crazy. But yeah, it's weird how I just jump into boss mode as soon as I do that. So I'm just like, run a podcast like a boss. But we don't just, you'll catch a lot of internet memes and parody references in our show because we're nerds and we're proud of it. We actually, anybody that calls us a dork, geek, nerd, or otaku, we just smile and take it as a compliment because to us it is one. So we're like, you may be insulting us, but we don't think you are. But yeah, we got a large crew. Sorry.
It's our caps. You know, how do you guys do you use the freshest off the net or like the freshest in print?
What we do is the freshest that's out online with the manga recaps because the majority of the Naruto fans aren't going to be willing to wait on what's coming out in the U.S. because it takes so long. I know I bought a manga volume in about, I think it was volume 50, came out around February, and 51 doesn't even get released for a couple of more days. Actually, it comes out in June, and February to June, that's a long time to wait for a volume, and we do it chapter by chapter, so. We record basically the most current ones, and we have a different setup between anime recaps and manga recaps, so both shows are kind of different in their own little ways. They have different segments and stuff like that. So we try to keep it fresh. We're not recording an anime recap this week, obviously, because we're at the convention, but we did record the manga for this week, and then because the anime recaps usually aren't that long when we're talking anime anyway, we're just going to end up doing both episodes in the same time. Now, for anybody that's actually trying to do a podcast on a specific show, I'm going to say that you probably don't think about it, but one of the things you really have to do is if you're going to try to be current on the manga and if you're going to try and be current on the anime, it doesn't matter whether the chapter sucks or whether they're in filler or anything, you have to watch it because you have to recap it. And there were a lot of people on my podcast that realized this, and they were like, oh my God, I have to watch this crappy filler episode. I'm like, yes, you do, because if you don't watch it, you're not on the show that day. And they're like, well, that sucks, because then that means I can't do fan art. And I'm like, see? And then they had to watch it, and they're like, this is horrible. And I'm like, I have to do this all the time. I don't want to hear it from you. But that's one of those things that any newcomer might want to consider if they're doing a specific oriented podcast theme. And just to explain real quick the difference between the manga recap and the anime recap, I'll just talk about real quick. For the manga recaps, we actually record anime news. On each episode, we do podcast news. That way we're basically repeating the same stuff that we said on the last episode, but the more repetitive you get, the more your listeners will remember it and stuff like that. But we do anime news. And we'll go through every anime except Naruto. Like we'll go on Anime News Network, find the latest news, and we'll bring it up so people are aware. Like recently, we talked about the developments with Tokyo Pop going under in the U.S. And then we move on to Naruto news. Like the big thing in Naruto news right now is that we've got Naruto Movie 5 coming out in Japan. And the subs are starting to go crazy with Naruto Movie 4, or Shippuden Movie 4, rather. So Blood Prison's coming out, and Lost Tower's out on DVD now in Japan, and those are the big news items, and there's another video game that's scheduled to be released soon coming out for, I think it's the PSP, I believe. And that was one of the things we were talking about in Naruto news. Then we move on to the manga recap, which is basically, we say it's a recap, but basically we fan dub the chapters. We put voices to different characters. We've got a couple of people who really would make good voice actors. Our Toby does a really good old man voice, and I can't possibly do his voice justice, but I will say that one of the funniest things he does is he makes his little lewd sexual references with the word inside. Just, it's so sad and so funny, and randomly you'll hear him scream Excelsior in the old man voice too. So yeah, and I mean, we have a lot of fun with it, and we'll poke fun at the manga if we think that it's done something stupid or silly. But then we move on from that to Toby's Tales, which is like a child's odyssey kind of storytelling setting, and it's about Toby and his adventures to catch the muffin of the week. Each episode is random, and it was written by somebody who has a vivid and wild imagination, so it's always crazy, but you're always guaranteed to love it. And all I really do is I clip it to make sure that like any blah 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 or moments, like if you stumble over yourself or something, are taken out, and then I add like music and maybe a few sound effects. But the anime recaps are a little bit different. Our anime recaps basically start off with a little bit of podcast news, and then we move on to fan mail. We read our fan mail that we get on our emails, and some of our fans can get kind of crazy, but we're an explicit podcast, so we read it. However, if you have bad grammar, we will point that out to you. But we get like some really crazy people that email us, not crazy as in like they're goofy or anything, but like it's crazy that people in these countries know about us. We get email from Lithuania, which I had no idea where that was until recently. We get Ireland. We get mail from Ireland, the UK, Germany. We got a couple from Brazil, Argentina, Australia. I love it when we get one from Australia. We have this girl called the Aussie Anbu, and she types everything out with the accent you would think it would be in, like "good day, mate," "bloody awesome," stuff like that. And so every time I read that, they make me read her emails now, because every time I read her emails, I have to do it with my Australian accent. So basically, I just sound like Chew from Yu Yu Hakusho. Yeah. So I'm like, I have to sound like the drunken blue mohawk character from Yu Yu Hakusho. So it's like, so before, to get myself into it, I have to start quoting him. So I'm like, no need to make the ring any taller. Let's just have some fun out here. Craps, it's bright out here. And then by that time, I'm like, okay, good eye, mate. You know, Aussie Ambu here. And I just start doing it like that. And, but I mean, we really got an awesome fan base, and I love the group that we get, and we love reading emails. We have a lot of fun with it. And then we move on to the anime recaps. And it's basically, we do kind of, we rate it thumbs up, thumbs down. What did you like? What didn't you like? And, and I don't remember if there's a third step. I could have sworn there was, but let's pretend there isn't. And then the next thing we do is we do a, darn it. Okay, we do a Japanese word of the week. And depending on who's there, if it's Sakura, it's an actual Japanese word that you should know. Like, she's teaching you Japanese words that you should know for basic conversation. Jiraiya will teach you all the perverted words that you should not know. And if neither of them are there, well, I'm just going to teach you how to cuss in Japanese. So that's basically how that goes. Then we have what I like to consider is the antithesis of Toby's Tales. Since Toby's Tales made you lose your brain cells, we're going to try and help you regrow them with Sasuke in her Culture Corner. And she will explain where names of characters come from, any of the culture and mythology behind the actual series. She actually educates you on a lot of the culture of Japan that is placed in Naruto. And then finally, if we have any that week or not, it depends, it's on and off, we will do fan art. And how that's set up is we have one person from the crew who will go onto a folder where people have submitted stuff that they want to be voted on for fan art. She will pick 20 images that she thinks are pretty. Then the staff, which is basically our tune-in through the Kage, get to vote on the top 10. And then the ones that didn't make it into the top 10 go back into the other folder. The top 10 get placed on a voting poll that goes out to everybody in our entire DeviantArt community, and they vote on the top 5. And those top 5 get talked about on the podcast, and we will do thumbs up, thumbs down, what you like about the image, what didn't you like about the image, why. And then we give the image, if you could sum the image up in a word, that's what it is. And then we wrap up just like we would with the manga recaps, and it's basically we try to name the ridiculous episode. We try to give the episode a name based on what we've said and done throughout the episode. Sometimes they're inside jokes that you won't get because I couldn't edit. But, okay. Sometimes they're inside jokes, but, I mean, we try to explain them if they are. But, yeah, we name the episode. We play through a list of all the different ways that people can contact us. And we basically just sign out with each of our characters, and we finish it off with peace. And Naruto says wiener in a really cute voice. And then lately, because we've been loving DBZ Abridged, in my little Vegeta impersonation voice, I'll say, have a biscuit. And that'll be the end of that. But we always try to have fun, have a good time. If we're not laughing, then we're not doing something right. Because if we can't make ourselves laugh, we figure we're not going to make our audience laugh. So, But yeah, that's basically what it is like. And then I spend about 7 hours editing. Then I spend the next 5 minutes putting everything together on iTunes to make it look right. In my, I have a playlist on my own iTunes for Konoha Corner, so I can get it all set up before I put it up on the feed. Then I put it on the feed, and then I start making the YouTube videos. And by the time that gets done, well, it's time to do the next one. So yeah, I mean, the recording is great, and I'm pretty sure that by now my podcast crew is convinced that I'm really just sitting around playing video games and the podcasts just go up by magic. So
I think so. Talked about that. MTAC was your home con.
Yes.
How is it like working between AWA and MTAC all the time?
Well, I mean, it's really crazy because AWA gave us our first shot. They gave us our first panel. So they have a special place for us because they're our first. You never forget your first. That's true with cons, that's true with panels, that's true with your first podcast, whatever your first is. You never forget your first. Like, you never forget your first significant other, your kiss, whatever. But it's just, they have a special place for us because they were the first ones that really gave us a chance. And based on what we did there, other cons took notice, and that's why we're able to get within just like, wow, 6 months of that fact, we were already press. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And it was thanks to, I really have to say, it's not, thanks to them for giving us a shot, but it's thanks to all the people who sat in and listened and thought and heard something from us that they liked that really spread the word around. Nashville is my home, but let's face it, Atlanta is our base because everybody in that Atlanta region around there is promoting us so much. We went back to Atlanta for MomoCon. We had another great panel, and it was totally packed the whole time, and we had more fans. And by this time, we'd actually made a CD with all of our outtakes on it, and people were buying those up. Like, I left with only 4 CDs left, and it was because they stopped me from selling them. Like, I couldn't sell them outside the con. I was like, dang it. But it was really, really cool. MTAC especially is because I know so many people that are volunteers and staff and just I know the con chair. And I've known these people. We're on a first name basis. They know me. I still go to school with quite a few of them because ITT Tech is actually about 5 minutes from the con hotel. So it's really crazy. I'm like, wow, if I need to go to school to do anything, I can. But I love the fact that these guys know me so well. I love the fact that these guys know me so well, and they were willing to give us a chance when we came over, and they were like, oh, you've got a podcast now. Let me see how many hits you got. Oh, my God, that's crazy. Yeah, you totally need press badges. Like, I had just barely started asking for them, and they were already like, you know you're getting them, right? And I'm like, I'm so happy. But I think it's almost kind of cheating in a way because the girl that helped found the podcast with me, our Sakura, is actually one of the GMX girls. So she's actually a girl for the both the cons. She is a con girl for both of the cons. GMX, which is Geek Media Expo, that takes place in Nashville, Tennessee. Make sure you go. It's in October. And she also does a lot of stuff with MTAC as well. So we had kind of an inside there. So if you really want to get press badges, you're starting off, you want to get press badges, you need to make sure that you have all the information, and doesn't hurt to have someone on the inside. All I'm saying.